Well, what's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Open Championship. That's right, it's the third major of the year, and this is going to be a fun one. The British Open, the Open Championship, whatever you want to call it, is always going to be a similar style with a links course, and the wind can whip up and mess these guys up for 3 or 4 days. So it should be a lot of fun. Should be fun to sweat. Let's talk a little bit about Carnoustie, which is the course that we've got this week. It's a par 71. As with most link style courses, you're going to need to be in position throughout the course. That means you're going to have to drive it somewhat straight. You're going to want to avoid pot bunkers. You're going to want to hit the greens in the proper spot. There's going to be a lot of collection areas if you miss those spots. But what we saw was Brandt Snedeker, one of the guys who posted some videos and some pictures from the course this week already, and it looks completely burned out in the fairways. It's going to be hard. The ball is going to run. You're going to see a ton of long drives. It's going to be cosmic vapor off the club face this week, which brings a lot of those short hitters back into play. With that being said, we have a lot to talk about. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's jump right into the cheat sheet here. And I already messed up. That's the game logs. Here's the cheat sheet. So if you're new for this week, everything you're going to see today is available on dfsondemand.com. This is the cheat sheet that I put together each week. 157 players in the field, and the pricing, as we get with most majors, very, very soft. So what are we going to do here? Let's start with the top guys, all over 5,000. You can make arguments for any one of them. I am absolutely paying up for Dustin Johnson. I went on Pat Mayo's show last week, and I really enjoy my time doing that. But it's an early look. Honestly, it's quite honestly my first look at the slate. Since then, it's been a couple days, and I am very much solidified on Dustin Johnson for a few reasons. He's got the best odds to win this event. In my opinion, he's the best player in the world. When we get to some of the key stats, you're going to see him pop up literally everywhere. But let's just look at his form coming in. We haven't seen him since the U.S. Open where he tallied a third place. No worse than a 17th since the Players. And here's his last. I've added a few more years to my cheat sheet here. So we've got the last 7 years of tournament history. And you can see basically 4 top 10s in the last 7 years for DJ. And I want to just kind of pull up his game logs and really try to hammer this home for a second at how good Dustin Johnson has been. So let's see if I can sort this. Here we go. So here are his starts in 2018. So since the start of the swing season, no worse than 17th place in any event. Like, I'm not kidding. If we go back even another year, he hasn't finished outside the top 25 or outside the top 17 since the Tour Championship of last year. Hasn't missed a cut since last year's U.S. Open. I mean, the dude is just absolutely legit. When we get to the key stats, he's going to pop off. It's going to be really incredible. After DJ, we can make arguments for or against any one of these other top players, right? Rory hasn't been great, right? He's been a little volatile, missing 2 of his last 4 cuts, but excellent Open Championship history. Jordan Spieth, similarly, top-notch player, has all the upside in the world, but we know how uninspiring he's been. So those two are a little more risky plays if you're looking for something like that. Justin Rose is kind of that solid option that you have at 10,200. If you started lineups with him, I couldn't be too upset about you. 3 straight top 10s, including a win back at the Fort Worth Invitational. He's a Euro-style player, right? Like, these conditions are not going to bother him. The one guy who I'm most concerned about is Justin Thomas. I mentioned this on Mayo's show as well. Just, I've been a little uninspired with Justin Thomas in his last 2 starts. I think he kind of faded at the Travelers. 2 British Open starts, a missed cut and a 53rd in the last 2 years. He's just the type of player who, like, John Rahm's kind of similar, where if things start going south, they go south real quick. If he's on all week, but one bad hole, he forces a lot of shots where I feel like you have to be a lot more patient on these types of courses. So, it's not going to be 20 under that wins this thing. It might be over par. It might be 6 over par that wins this thing, depending on if the wind gets kicking. So I'm not sure that's the type of championship I want JT or John Rahm in. because I think it can go south very quickly for both of those players. All right. You do get some really great options now down here in the 9s, the 8s. I mean, there's so many good options laced in here. Ricky Fowler is going to be really, really popular, and it's easy to see why. If you just look at his Vegas odds, so he's 16-1, which is cheaper than, which is better odds than Rahm, Justin Thomas, and Jordan Spieth, and the same odds as Rory McIlroy, and he's much cheaper than all of those guys. You can see 4 straight top 20s for Ricky Fowler. If we actually look, this doesn't include the Scottish Open. So I have the Scottish Open game logs here on the site. So if we do this, we can get to the Scottish Open. Some of these are a little, I have to update my stats here for some of these, but maybe, am I clicking this? Here we go. So like this is wrong. Obviously, he was not 265 over par. I'll have to update that. But the finishing positions are correct. So Ricky Fowler here, a 6th place finish. So if we look at that and add another essentially top 5 into Ricky Fowler's recent run here, like, yeah, that's why he's 16-1. That's why that number came down over the course of the last 7 days or so. Tommy Fleetwood has been great in the two, the Players and the U.S. Open, which is 2 most recent starts on the PGA Tour. But I'm probably not as warm as the rest of the industry. Fleetwood is going to be very, very popular. He's being touted all over the place. I'm lukewarm. The fact that he missed 3 straight cuts in Open Championships when, the narrative has always been like, oh, he's this Euro player who knows how to play these link-style courses. Like, okay, 27th place finish last year, 3 straight missed cuts before that. I'm not as convinced as some of the other guys in the industry. All right, I do want to roll through some of these guys quickly because I want to get to some of the other sheets that I have available here. I like Sergio. I think he's a nice little bounce back option. I wonder what his ownership is going to be with, these 3 straight missed cuts on the PGA Tour, a 70th the Players. But here he is right here. Excellent Open Championship history. Jason Day, I will talk a lot about. I think he's criminally underpriced at $8,900. I think he has a legitimate chance to win this. I think he should be much closer to $10,000. He will be a core play for me in almost every format. $8,800, excuse me, much too cheap there. You get guys like Molinari who are going to be super chalky. But I want to point out one more before we move on. Henrik Stenson, 25-1, $8,200. That's criminal. We're going to check to see. He withdrew from the Scottish Open with a wrist injury. Assuming he plays the practice rounds this week, I'm not too concerned. So keep an eye on Stenson. $8,200 and only $2,500 is criminal. And let's see if I can point out anybody else just as we kind of move down here. I hate to say it, but Luke List, real great run at the Scottish Open last week. Seems a course like that, a link style course seems to fit his eye. And then you get guys like Tony Finau, who we talk about all the time, like 60-1 when his peers are like Jorge Campillo. I have no idea who that is. Not going to lie to you. I have no idea who he is. He's 250-1. He's the same price as Tony Finau. That's a joke. Zach Johnson, 80-1, $7,200. That's a joke. So these guys are massively undervalued. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more, but let's go to some of these other tools I have here. So I'll kind of blow through the course history, or I'm sorry, the tour stats real quick here because we do not have obviously a great course history because the British Open rotates courses every year. I did, however, still use a correlation of the last 8 years of Open Championships because they usually play similar types of styles, okay? I'm not weighting this section as much as I would other weeks, but keep it in mind. So here we go. The 5 stats that popped up the most for Open Championships compared to DraftKings success are as followed. Their strokes gained total, SFDA, birdie or better percentage, strokes gained putting, and bogey avoidance. A lot of those make sense. So let's look through this and see if we can find any values or anyone. DJ leads the field in strokes gained total, and it is not close. a half a stroke better than the next best guy on the field. That's Justin Rose. So then if you go from Justin Rose to a half a stroke lower, it's Tommy Fleetwood. There's like 12 guys between 2 and 14 or 2 and 12, where basically DJ is lapping the field in strokes gained total. Okay. No surprise to see a couple of values here with the soft pricing. Jason Day, Paul Casey. Here's Stenson, criminally priced. And then Emiliano Grillo, who is also going to pop up a lot here at $6,800. Probably going to force my hand into playing him because as we're going to see as we continue to go through this, he's probably the best value on the board. Bryson DeChambeau, we're going to keep an eye on that shoulder. So withdrew from the John Deere Classic. He would have popped up in a lot of these places. We'll see if he actually tees it up this week. SFDA, which is a perfect stat to kind of use for an open championship where you get a very difficult field, because this is a stat that looks at every course, every field that you're on. And again, DJ kind of running away with this. And you're usually going to see your best players here anyway, right? Like this makes sense. And this just hammers home the fact that Tony Finau is underpriced, right? Everyone above him is, let's call it, $8,200 or mostly $9,000, over $10,000. And then you get Tony Finau, who's $2,000 cheaper than everybody else. That's how good Tony Finau has been. This is a really bad price tag on him. He's going to be like 30 or 40% owned, but I'm not sure how you're really going to avoid him, honestly. Birdie or better, we see a lot of the same names we see here. Jason Day continues to pop off. Dustin Johnson continues to lead it. So our three most important stats so far, Dustin Johnson has led the way in every single one. And the fact that he's 11,300, which other weeks we have seen the top player, the most expensive player, be closer to 12,000, right? 11,800, 11,900. He's cheaper than that. And the pricing is so soft that you can essentially make any combination of lineups with DJ. So yeah, give me DJ. I'll be all in. No surprise here on the birdie or better guys. We see these same guys every single week, but just to kind of point out who they are, it's Hadley, DeChambeau with some values, and then Jason Day again continues to pop up. Strokes gained putting. There's my guy. There's Jason Day leading the way. $8,800. Here's Grillo again. What's that? 6th or 7th. Brandon Grace. So when you get the majors, when you get these Euro style, you're looking for Euros. Brandon Grace always pops up. He's from South Africa, but he plays a lot on the Euro Tour. Here's what I'm looking for. I thought he had maybe I'm confusing him with someone else. I thought he had a decent finish last week. Let's just see what Brandon Grace has been up to. I've not looked at this, so bear with me here. All right, so U.S. Open 25th, Memorial 52nd, a couple of top 5s before that. So, I mean, he's got 3 top 10s in his last 7 starts. Hasn't missed the cut since, when's the last time this guy missed the cut? The Northern Trust, August 2017. So playing well, this type of course would seem to fit his eye. And then you get him you get some of these stats that are popping off at us here. So really, really good putter. Of course, Justin Rose is always going to be up here. And then bogey avoidance. I mean, there are large numbers lurking out there this week, right? You get into a pot bunker, that's a one-shot penalty. A ball comes off a collection area wrong, that's like a one-shot penalty. So you really have to be precise. You can't give up the big number. DJ comes in number 2. It's unbelievable what his stats are. Stenson leads the way. Grillo is up here again. Webb Simpson's now popped off a couple times. Like, even Kevin Na, Matt Kuchar, Kevin Na's playing well. Matt Kuchar always in these big events can hold his own. A lot of I mean, you're going to make some super lineups this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is the same type of thing that we did for the Masters, where we took down the birdie, and I had a roster that was Spieth, Reed, Fowler, I forget who else, Henley, Hoffman, and somebody else. But it's like you can get 3 studs into this lineup, and 2 other guys or 3 other guys in like the top 30 in the world. It's going to be awesome. And then we'll go back to this new course, or this new strokes gained, DraftKings points gained model that I have or sheet that I have here. Again, DraftKings points gained. I love this stat. Really encompasses everything from strength of field, tournament strength, how well you're playing. And it's no surprise that the two guys that are leading DraftKings points gained since January 1st, which is usually the time frame I do this in, are DJ and Jason Day. Going to have a lot of them. Then when you start to see some values, it's Paul Casey, Brandon Grace again, Griot again. Molinari recently has been awesome. You even get Tiger up here in the top 10. Like there are some value plays in here. Okay. If we flip over to, here are the logs. So just to kind of show you, here's DJ in his, since January. So you can see he's gained strokes in every single event. He's not gained less than 24. I'm sorry. He's gained DraftKings points on the field in every event. He hasn't gained less than 24 in any in that range. He's just been unbelievable. Here's a good value that I've mentioned on Mayo's show. Andy Sullivan. Andy Sullivan since January. Now, this also includes the Euro Tour, but he has gained DraftKings points on the field in every single start of his. He's only $7,200. If we flip back to the cheat sheet, we're going to see Andy Sullivan right here. Okay, so no PGA Tour starts. That's fine. Well, that'll keep a lot of guys away from him. A 12th and a 30th in two of his last three Open starts. And then if we go to his actual game logs and just look at the last year. So missed the cut at the Scottish Open, but before that, in his previous four starts, 3 top 10s. You go back even further, like the guy's racking up top 10s on the Euro Tour. And these aren't small events. Like, let's see, 5th at the Italian Open, 9th at the BMW. What else? 6th at the Irish Open. I mean, these are starting to get some pretty deep fields on the Euro Tour this time of year. And Andy Sullivan's showing up. So $7,200. I will have a decent bit of him. Oh, here's Jorge Campillo. Maybe we should acclimate ourselves to him. He's the same price as Tony Finau. I don't really know much more about him. Seems to play primarily on the Euro Tour, but doing well. I don't want to take up too much time, but let's see. If I could type. So here we go. 32nd at the Scottish. He's racked up a couple of top 10s before that. Wow. Okay. So playing well in the last, 5 months or so. I don't know much more about him other than what you just saw, but looks to be some upside for a guy at $7,200. And then just to kind of show you here, I'm going to show you the full chart. You're looking for guys on the right of this chart. So like DJ, Justin Rose, Rahm. So Rose and Rahm would be better than Justin Thomas as far as DraftKings points gained because they are gaining more points at a similar price tag. Jason Day's on this right edge. Brandon Grace on this right edge. There's Sullivan and Campillo. So this is kind of a nice little visual here. Okay. And then let's roll over to strokes gained. This one's pretty good. So unfortunately, not a lot. So we don't have the same course history. So this is not useless, but it's just different. We can look back at last week and we can look at the guys who played last week. There weren't a lot of them. Bronson Burgoon played well, gained a lot of strokes, gained as many strokes on average as Francesco Molinari did, who's one of the highest players on the planet. So these are the guys who played the John Deere last week. But I like this one a little bit better. This is just something I threw together. You kind of saw it on the fly last week where I just threw, hey, like let me see all the strokes gained categories. Let me see how many rounds they've played, and then I can choose how many weeks to go back. So I have it plugged in to go back 20 weeks, which takes us back to basically March, which gives everybody 18 or 20 rounds, which is kind of what I wanted as a minimum. Strokes gained total, again, DJ's been unbelievable, lapping the field. Paul Casey's up here. Here's Jason Day. So if we go back, so we're going back 20 weeks, and Jason Day's got the 5th best strokes gained average of anyone in the field, and there's a lot of guys who are priced, $2,000-$3,000 more than him. It just doesn't make sense. Here's Griot. Like probably the best value on the slate, right? Like long-term, he's been awesome. Ian Poulter here at $7,800. You know he's going to show up in big events. I've noticed Ryan Moore's name has popped off quite a bit here. We can adjust this if you're looking for something more recent. Now, keep in mind that a lot of these guys are either playing on the Euro Tour where I don't have stats, or they've kind of been taking time and resting up. So you might not see the studs play as many rounds. So even in the last 10 weeks, which are the events you see listed here, like DJ's only played, 3 of those events? He's played 12 rounds. So this is a much, much smaller sample size. DJ obviously still killing it. He's even better recently. But I'm trying to find some more volatility, trying to find some maybe some values here. So here's Burgoon. So he's actually played a lot. He's played the most rounds here out of anyone with, 1.5 strokes gained or more, or even better than that. 20 rounds. So he's been playing really well. $6,300. That might be the minimum price. Actually, I'm not sure there's anybody cheaper than that. He might be a really deep flyer. If you wanted to throw a bunch of studs in a lineup, you could probably put Burgoon in there and not feel terrible about yourself. His form's been pretty good. So this is what I just kind of like to do. If you're interested in, so I like the tee to green stats, right? I like to look at tee to green kind of as one, which you get Cantlay, who unfortunately he loses strokes on the greens, but he's almost break even. Adam Scott, always a fit for an Open Championship type course. If one of these guys is great tee to green, but he's losing strokes with the putter, if that putter gets hot this week, they're a candidate to win an event, right? So someone like Rahm, someone like Rory, Adam Scott, Patrick Cantlay, these guys who are losing strokes on the greens. And then if you want to flip this around and say, okay, who are our best putters? Very clearly, at least in the last 10 weeks, and maybe I should make this a little bit longer. It was Ian Poulter, who has been red hot recently. You can see if you go back and add 10 more weeks, he starts to normalize a bit. But you get the guys you'd expect, right? Jason Day, Paul Casey, Phil Mickelson, Bryson, a lot of the normal names here. So really, really interesting stuff and plenty of lineups that you can make. As we always do, I'm going to wrap this up with just the odds real quick, because there's usually a lot of discrepancies in major events. And that's kind of what we're seeing here, right? So Fowler, a really good value at $9,700 because he's 16-1 to win. Rory has the same odds to win. He's 11,000. Henrik Stenson we talked about, just much too cheap. Let's see. Noren would be pretty good. I actually like Noren in this field a lot. Same odds to win as Sergio, and he's cheaper. Here's Brandon Grace, right? 4,500, only 45-1, only $7,900. The Finau one's pretty ridiculous, quite honestly. Anybody else jumping off here? Here's Griot. Good value at $6,800, 125-1 to win. But I mean, there's guys. Look at this. Luke List 150-1 to win, and he's $7,500. Now Luke List did have a really nice week last week, so take it for what it's worth. But there are some really interesting values here. So there you go. It's the Open Championship. We're going to be waking up early and watching. Make sure to check the weather. This is going to be a week where the winds, while unpredictable, if we can find an edge, it's the week to take it. So I'm going to be holding off on making lineups as long as possible. I will potentially stack an AM wave or a PM wave if we see that there's going to be a clear advantage. Again, any of that can change. Just because it's like that on Thursday or Wednesday night doesn't mean that the wind and the forecast can't change in a moment's notice. So I won't put too much weight on it, but this is the week I'm most interested in it. There you go. Let me know what you think. Who are you going to be watching this week? Where does this major rank for you compared to the others? Is it, for me, I guess it's got to be third behind the US Open, behind the Masters and the US Open. But I do like this. I like waking up early, watching it, staying up late, watching it. And then you can kind of get some really interesting courses, stuff we never see on a weekly basis. So let me know how you feel about this, and I will talk to you guys soon. Good luck this week.